Welcome back. The doctor is in. Once again, I'm talking about my BattleTech writing over the past 10 years. Today, I'm talking about Technical Readout Prototypes. This is an interesting product, mostly because I didn't even remember that I had written anything for it. I thought it had just taken several of the units from XTRO Kurita and copied them into this compilation book. That's not what happened. Instead, this book had altered versions of the books of the units from the various XTROs, and those needed new write-ups to represent the production model of what had been the experimental versions, or rather the prototype versions of what had been experimentals. And it wasn't until I saw that this was listed in a folder in my old desktop file folder as a separate product that I looked through and found that I did indeed write original material for this book. So let's talk a little bit about what was in here that I did right. First was the Void battle armor. In XTRO Kurita, if you read the description here, or if you read the different versions from the XTRO to the print book here, they downgraded the equipment, they downgraded the stealth armor, they downgraded the clan weaponry, and they went with adding a second mine system. I liked that I called it the Caltrup in the XTRO. I think that's a better name. That's still the only use of that name in BattleTech. So they changed it to the to the mine layer variant of the Void, which is a generic name. It's less evocative. I had no voice in this. This was, if you remember from my video about XTRO Kurita, I mentioned that I believe I was the last author who was allowed to write his own units. So for this book, they provided everyone with the stats, the armament, the armor, placement, and everything for all of the units in this book. And they sent you a file with those units already statted out, and you just filled in the text portion and sent it back. And then they, collated it into the production file. So this was, if you read it, you'll see that this is kind of I'm fairly lackluster, and maybe it's one of the reasons that I didn't even remember writing original material for this, because I had no real investment in it. They just asked me to write these things. I didn't design these new versions of what I had previously designed, and in most cases, I'm not that satisfied. I think my experimental versions were better, and I had to try to rationalize in the text that I wrote why they would go with an inferior version for their production. So that's one of these things I've mentioned before. You write what they tell you to write, what they need you to write. That's just part of being a professional. You don't really complain about it, and I don't want to seem like I'm complaining. It's just, as I said, if I were to have designed these new variants, I would have had more invested, and I would have probably remembered actually writing these other portions here. So they also put in the Pegasus. I think mine was just called the Pegasus X, so here they call it the X-Pulse variant of the Pegasus hover tank. Similar to the Void. In this case, I don't really mind, because the Pegasus has a number of variants based on what the primary weapon modification is. So in this case, it fits, that it fits that mentality, that trend that already existed. So I don't really have an issue with it in this case. Again, they kind of downgraded the experimental version for the production version. Likewise for the Hero, they took the experimental version, downgraded it for the most part, in order to have a production model, and then I just filled in the text. The wolf trap, I think, might be the most significant change from the experimental version. It uses, oh, let me look here. See if I enumerated specifically in my write-up. So I know it went from the silver bullet Gauss rifle that I had on the experimental version, and they replaced it with just a Gauss rifle. And the reason they use it is it's the same one that goes on the Kurita variant of the Atlas. So I try to rationalize, why they would do that, and it's for, logistical reasons. And I think it takes away some of the distinctiveness of the experimental version. And the experimental version was not a great battle mech to begin with. Now this one, they kept the 2 X-pulse lasers, but I believe they changed something else in here. If you read through it and compare the two, you'll see it. I've only got one file open here at the moment, so forgive me for perhaps being slightly less prepared than I would like to be. The overall feeling is I think this one was a logical downgrade, and instead of calling it the bear trap, because I believe I had it specifically noted as being used against Clan Ghost Bear, they just give it a standard variant alphanumeric of 2B. In this case, again, I'm okay with that. That fits the philosophy of how battle mechs are referred to by their technical description. And in fact, I think because this one doesn't use the silver bullet, I think this one is a superior version of the experimental. I believe I put the silver bullet on the experimental version because I needed some kind of experimental technology in addition to the X-pulse lasers. I might have been required to have every weapon experimental. I don't remember, and I don't have those old emails anymore to see about the clarifications that I may have gotten at the time. So next is the Hotmo Keru. This one actually surprised me a little bit. I thought, and if you watch my video on XTRO Kurita, you'll see that I thought the production model, let's see if I can find the production model, I believed, dropped all the torpedoes in favor of missiles, but they only dropped the long-range torpedoes for long-range missiles. So each leg has an SRM system for torpedo, or an SRT system. It has a short-range torpedo in each leg, but the torso-mounted racks they changed to missiles. I thought they had done that with all of the torpedoes, so I was mistaken. Again, this design change, in my opinion, eliminates the distinctiveness of the Keru experimental version as a solely aquatic variant. I think making it an aquatic unit that has weapons that can't be fired underwater is kind of a design flaw that engineers would have complained about, just like I'm complaining about them. And what I found looking through these files that I found is I wrote the description for an aerospace unit, the TIG-40 Foxhound. I don't even remember writing that. I read it, and I, like I said, I found the file which has my original typing, everything I typed up. So I know that I wrote this. I just don't remember writing it. This must have been in a periphery product that I didn't contribute to. So I guess they asked me to write it, and I wrote it. It kind of surprised me. Similarly, the Persepolis, I didn't remember writing this. And what's interesting about this is I think this might be the first clan unit that I ever wrote a description for. I don't remember writing anything earlier than this, and I don't think even the the Turning Points products that I wrote to this point had all been Intersphere. So this, I'm pretty sure, was my first foray into writing anything for any clan. So take that for what you will. If it's no good, I'll plead rookie status and beg your forgiveness. But mostly what I want to talk about with this video is that after you've been writing for a while, you've written so many units in technical readouts and field manuals or turning points that have custom units or whatever, that all of it sort of runs together and you don't necessarily remember everything you've written. So it's not that the writers are dumb, it's just that we've done so much, we can't necessarily remember every detail if you ask us on the spur of the moment. So in this case, I didn't even remember that I wrote the new versions descriptions, even though I didn't write the new stats of all the units in here, with the exception of the 2 aerospace units that somebody else designed and originally wrote up in some other products. So that's all I really have for this video. Let me know what you think. If you have read TRO Prototypes, if you have all the XTROs from that series, if you like one or the other, let me know what you think. And I will be back next time. For now, the doctor is out.